The Native American Heritage Month is a time to recognize and celebrate the Native American community, not just here in Montgomery County, but nationwide. This month is a time of reflection on the past, present, and future to celebrate Native Americans and their stories. This means taking the time to continue to learn about the indigenous people native to our county and our state, and educating ourselves and learning with our children about cultural values and difficult historical truths. So I'm personally thankful my kids can go to a Montgomery County public school where the voices and the stories of indigenous people are included in the conversation when learning about our shared history, and that they recently did as part of their Cub Scout work as well. As the proud home of many Native American tribes, Maryland has an obligation to raise awareness about the challenges facing Native Americans and honor all of those who contributed so much to the community we have today. I'm very proud to present this proclamation today. I want to recognize some of our guests who have joined us. Keith Colston, Chief Jesse James Swan of the Piscataway Convoy Tribe, Rico Newman from the Choctaw Band of Indians, Dr. Michelle M. Alexander, the Library and Media Specialist at Richard Montgomery High School, Zola Shaw, the Chair of Racial Equity and Social Justice Advisory Committee, and Jared Hadamaki, a member of our Racial Equity and Social Justice Advisory Committee as well. Before Councilmember Navarro and I read the proclamation, I'll turn it over to her for remarks and then to Mr. Colston. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this proclamation and for including me in today's presentation. I also want to welcome our guests today and thank all of them for their work on behalf of our state's Native peoples. Last year, I introduced a resolution that this council passed unanimously to recognize the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, in which called on the General Assembly to take the same action and for MCPS to undergo a review of its curriculum to better incorporate the histories, narratives, and cultures of the country's Native people. Continue to be proud of that resolution. The past year has reminded us all of the importance of uplifting previously silenced voices and incorporating these narratives into our national story. As a country and many other countries around the world, we owe a great debt to our Native peoples, and we should all take the time this month to reflect on our collective history and recommit ourselves to fostering a better future. We are in a transformational period in our nation's history, and Montgomery County continues to set a good example for our neighbors. I look forward to seeing the next council continue the new traditions that we have started. Thank you again for being here today.
Do any other council members want to jump in before we read the proclamation? Councilmember Jawanda.
Yes, briefly. I just also want to thank you and Councilmember Navarro for putting this proclamation forward and recognizing the deep importance and contributions of Indigenous and Native peoples to our state, to our county, and to the nation. Right before this was a nation, you were here for tens of thousands of years, and I love the shirt that one of the young gentlemen is wearing here about decenter and decolonize. We really need that now. There's a fight for truth, and you can't chart a path forward together unless you recognize our history, and that's hard, but it's important. And so it's one of the great things about Montgomery County that we're not afraid to have those conversations and to talk about our shared history. So just wanted to wish everybody a happy Native American History Month, and thank you for participating today.
Thank you, Council Vice President Albornoz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilmember Navarro, for leading this effort. This is going to be one of too many to count legacies that you're going to leave to our community and our council. This is an important day to recognize the history of our country and our friends and neighbors in our Native American community. One of my favorite museums on the mall is the Native American History Museum, which my kids and I had the opportunity to visit recently, now that things are back open. And it's one of our favorite places in DC. The rich culture and history is something that I'm teaching my kids about, and something that we must continue to teach generations about, because there is too much that has not been spoken of that needs to be highlighted and addressed before we can move forward as a country and as a community. So thank you so much for this recognition. It's an important one, and I look forward to hearing the proclamation and celebrating with all of you this month.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you and Councilmember Navarro for your work and efforts here. And as we just honor Native American Heritage Month, it is quite obvious to me and all of us that Native Americans and Indigenous people were our First Nation here on these lands. And as we continue talking about our history, we need to remind people what our true and real history is. And there should be no debate about that. And that is what we are honoring and celebrating today as we work to ensure a fair and equitable society for everybody, regardless of how long they have been on these lands. So I'm pleased you're all here with us today. And thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson, you're next in the.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to Councilmember Navarro. Just briefly wanted to echo all of the comments and appreciate the fact that we are honoring our true heritage here in our region, in our county, and in our country. And it's a really important day here, and the actions that we've recently taken are critical. And I hope just the beginning. They're long overdue, but there's a lot more that we should be doing, and look forward to continuing this process and appreciate the leadership that is being shown, and happy to participate in it.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilmember Navarro, for leading this. It's always been good to see Mr. Colston. We saw him in my Gaithersburg days a few years back, and Keith, you have not aged in a day, so you're doing just fine. But once again, these proclamations are a day of recognition. And this recognition should have been done many, many years ago by many, many people. But at least for certain, we are doing it now, and we need to continue to do it. So thank you very much for reminding us of the importance. And Mr. Colson, thank you very much for all that you do. You certainly remind us on many, many more than one occasion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, anyone else want to jump in? Councilmember Rice.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I don't want to be left out here in appreciating and understanding just why this is so important. And again, Councilmember Jawando, Councilmember Reamer, and myself were all at the great happening this past weekend, to where we saw us commemorating some of the lynchings that had taken place here in Montgomery County. And one of the things that I reflected on is the importance of our young people to continue to understand our history and understand where we've come from and what has happened in this country, to make sure that we don't repeat those same transgressions of the past. And certainly ones in which we need to make sure that we're educating our children. And so part of this, in terms of understanding the heritage of our Native Americans, the people who were here when this land was then settled by English settlers who came in, then became a part of what was already an established community, is something that we need to make sure we remind our children of. Because I think that, unfortunately, while it is in history books, it's oftentimes not repeated enough so that people understand truly what happened and how we had a sector of this population who were decimated, who were moved out of their homes, who were killed. I mean, these are things, again, and as we, deal with the challenges of our past and the very terrible things that happen, we have to be honest and open about that and continue to have those conversations. It is not to make people feel bad. It is not to, try and, say that a culture is bad altogether because of what some people did in the past. But it is important to make sure that we recognize that that's what happened, and that then has an impact on that community today. So just as we talk about racism and we talk about lynchings, we talk about civil rights and it affecting the Black community and the reason why we continue to have the challenges we do, we have to say the same about our Native American community as well, and understand and acknowledge that many of the challenges that folks continue to face today is because of those transgressions of the past. And so it really is important. And I appreciate Councilmember Navarro, you, Council President, continuing to lift up these stories, because we need to make sure that history is something that is truthful and that helps us when it comes to paving the way for an even better and brighter future. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Rice. Let me turn it over to Keith Colston, the Director on Ethnic Commissions in the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives, for some more remarks and to accept the proclamation, which we'll read right after his remarks. Mr. Colston.
Juana Skenahay, greetings in my tribal language, which is the Skurue language. It is a historic day, and we are very thankful, and I say we are very thankful to be part of what Montgomery County is doing. Thank you to Montgomery County President and for all of the kind words that have been presented. They are taken in great appreciation and respect. It is a wonderful thing to see so many people commenting on this particular day and what is taking place. As mentioned, my name is Keith Colston. My native name is Asolte, and I am Tuscarora, an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe. My clan is Turtle Clan, and I provide this introduction as it is a proper introduction for us as tribal people. Serving in the capacity that I do, as well as serving in the capacity that helps to serve and represent the other ethnic commissions throughout the state that is under the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives, better known as GOSHI. GOSHI is led by its Executive Director, Stephen McAdams, and Chief of Staff, Winston Wilkinson. And GOSHI serves as one of the Governor's coordinating offices. It's indeed an honor to be with you and to accept this proclamation. The Native American Heritage Month proclamation is indeed a symbol and historic document that affirms the respect for Native Americans and the indigenous peoples of the area. The Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs is here to serve as the clearinghouse for information and support the tribal communities in a variety of ways, which I don't have time to go over now, but again, in a variety of ways. One that I'm most proud of, though, in my tenure, ladies and gentlemen, is the granting of Maryland Indian status, more so known as state recognition, to the Piscataway Conoy tribe, the Piscataway Indian Nation, and the Accohonic tribe in 2018. The Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs oversees the process which the tribes petition for. In my tenure, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest act is to serve Marylanders, and is specifically to my fellow indigenous peoples, first of this land. Therefore, I accept on behalf of the leadership, the enrolled members, and the tribal members in general, as a warrior that I am, and as a leader, the weight of responsibility and accountability is forever heavy for those of us who carry such titles. So let us all continue to respect the historical contributions and honor the modern day achievements of our indigenous peoples in the county. I would say also, ladies and gentlemen, that not only let us look at the historical situations, contributions, and achievement of tribal people, but let us please look at what is taking place today for our modern day indigenous peoples that are still in the area, still thriving, not just existing, but thriving. And through the partnerships and the support of individuals like yourselves, this can definitely take place. It will prosper. And this is the reason, again, why we are so thankful for what Montgomery County has done. I maybe went a little bit over my time, but I found it is very important to show the respect, but also the need to see not just in a historical sense, but again, modern day and what we look forward to doing in the future. In my language, I say in Yahweh, thank you on behalf of the Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs and the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives for my participation here today.
Thanks so much, Mr. Colston. Take all the time you need. You're doing great. All right, we're so glad you're here. We're so glad to all of our guests for joining us today and for their remarks. Councilmember Navarro and I will now alternate the reading of the proclamation. It begins, whereas Native American Heritage Month is a time to celebrate rich and diverse cultures, traditions, and histories, and to acknowledge the important contributions of the Native American community. And
whereas Native American Heritage Month is a time to raise awareness about the unique challenges the Native American community has faced both historically and in the present, and the ways in which the community has worked to conquer these challenges. And whereas
Maryland is home to many tribes recognized by the Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs, including the Accohonic Indian Tribe, the Assateague Peoples Tribe, the Cedarville Band of Piscataway Indians, the Nos Waiwash Band of Indians, the Piscataway Conoy Confederacy and Subtribes, the Piscataway Indian Nation, the Pocomoke Indian Nation, and the Yakagani River Band of Shawnee Indians. And
Whereas Montgomery County recognizes that Native Americans represent a wide variety of cultures and have contributed to the development and prosperity of our community through their work towards the advancement of the arts, business, education, government, law, medicine, public service, science, sports, religion, and technology, and by affirming the importance of family bonds and community spirit. And
whereas in commemorating Native American Heritage Month, we recognize all Native Americans who have laid a strong foundation that enables the progress of future generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby recognizes the month of November as Native American Heritage Month, presented on the 9th day of November in the year 2021. Congratulations and thank you.